Hey, AfterBuzzers, welcome back to the SNL After Show. We're going to be talking about the marvelous Mrs. Rachel Brosnahan hosting this episode. We're going to break down all the sketches. We're going to talk about the musical guest, Greta Van Fleet. We're going to do a special segment where we break down the anatomy of a sketch and get into the science of the comedy behind it and get a little news and gossip going, so stick around.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Wasn't even in the episode, but maybe the best part of it. I'm just kidding.
Pete cannot escape her.
Sorry, Pete.
It's like stuff said before we went on air. It's a banger. You can't deny this, Pete.
You did something. You gave the BDE she needed.
And this is what happened. So thank you, Pete, and thank you guys for tuning in. Welcome back, Steph.
I'm so excited to be here. I was just actually on my Instagram professing my love to Amy. I love hosting with you.
This is true. I love hosting with you. So guys, we're just going to have a moment real quick.
Okay.
It was beautiful.
We're back.
It was beautiful. If you're not watching, it was glorious. Beautiful.
We held hands.
So Steph, go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's up, you guys? I'm Steph. I was really excited for this episode for a few reasons, one of which is that we AfterBuzz cover Marvelous Mrs. Maisel After Show. So we are big Rachel Brosnahan fans.
Yeah. I know we had been very excited about that. I'm Amy Maestri, by the way. You guys are used to me. If you're not, you'll get used to me eventually. Acquired taste. But yeah, we were both so excited about this episode. We both host the Maisel After Show here at AfterBuzz TV. And I gotta say, I was so royally let down by the writing in this episode that they gave her to work with, but I thought that she still did a very good job with what she was given.
Yeah, I, like you said, was really excited, but as soon as I saw it was like an 8-minute cold open, I think, or maybe it was longer. I was like, dang, I don't know where we're going with this episode.
Yeah, true. So let's actually just jump right into that cold open. So it was Deal or No Deal. I think that's a funny premise for this idea because like they're negotiating with the shutdown and the wall. And I think it was a funny idea, but then it just went in 20 different directions. And like you said, it was long. It dragged and dragged.
It really dragged. And I like that we had Nancy Pelosi and the different, and using Trump's game, obviously, but it just did not hit the point, and I feel like there was a gold mine of points to hit, and they should have just shortened it.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think this was like one of those very stereotypical cold opens where they try to fit every single thing that's happening in politics into one cold open instead of focusing on a couple things and then creating comedy from that. I literally, at one point in the middle of this, I think they were actually just reading headlines.
Oh, yeah.
I think Trump and Pelosi were reading, like, saying what happened this week.
Literally on Apple News, just pulling up best of the week.
Like, straight up, well, we'll get into update later, but Che even had that joke where he's like, people will come up to me and be like, I get all my news from you. And I'm like, don't. Well, I guess maybe don't get it from update, but you can get it from the cold open because they are just reading headlines.
Yeah, yes.
I think that I almost wish that they would have used this for more of like a vehicle for impressions.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, Bex McConnell.
Oh, it is so good.
It's so underused in this.
It is. That's a great point. Roller Coaster Rider in the chat, what's up, had a great point that he loved Melissa's Alexandria Octavia. AOC, baby.
AOC.
She is so good at that, at her impression.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I would have loved to see more of her, more of Beck as McConnell, and less of the just kind of back and forth. Because I think that where it picked up steam finally was at the end, where they were all kind of giving their negotiating points, and it was all like related to current topics, but not just saying them. Mm-hmm. So I felt like literally the entire middle part of that sketch could have been cut.
I agree. I like I said, this was probably part of the time I dozed off and had to rewind.
Well, you would have had time. It was a 20-minute cold open. But once that finally ended, I did like, I just noticed that I put this down there too, that it was the hamburgers, of course, had to get.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
Get acknowledged. But again, even that I felt like was kind of like a joke in passing that they could have done more with.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's go into the monologue. Rachel Brosnahan is so freaking likable.
Oh my gosh, I know.
I started smiling before she even spoke.
I like the promos that came out this week. I'm like, dear God, I love this woman so much, and I thought that they would really bring out the best writing for her because she can hit the most. If you watch Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, that woman hits the most intense types of lines and monologues I've seen on a TV show and does it perfectly. Like she becomes the character, which you saw her ability to do it here, but it just wasn't well written.
Yeah, I mean, her timing is incredible on that show. Like you said, the way that she hits certain lines. And it's similar to when, obviously she doesn't do stand-up in real life. She's not a stand-up comedian. That wasn't how she got famous. But she does it so well with the material that's given to her. I really would have liked to just see them give her a monologue. The same way that when stand-ups come on, they just do their own monologue, whether they wrote it or some of the writers helped out. But I would have liked just like a traditional monologue with her.
I agree, because even though she might not be funny at writing, she has to have it in her to be able to play Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah. And even audience interaction, something where they play, if they planted people out in the audience, I think this would have been a good monologue for that. I just think it was kind of a waste. And the song itself, it was like, I get what they're doing, but it just ended up, it just made me kind of sad.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it, because we can't lose sight of the great things happening. But it could have been done a little bit more tasteful.
Yeah.
Because it's like we literally can't lose sight of the things that are happening.
Yeah.
But we still should be grateful for the good things.
And
I don't know. It just seemed out of touch.
I think, yeah, that's a good way to put it, out of touch. I think they just kind of were like, she's so perky and fun. And yeah, you want to, like, she has that vibe about her of like, good things are coming. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it didn't connect for me. I also noticed, did you know, towards the end of the song, they used some of the music from Welcome to Hell, the song that they did a while ago.
Oh, no, I didn't pick that up.
Yeah, I was like, and then I just wanted to hear Welcome to Hell, so I actually paused it and pulled up Welcome to Hell and watched.
I also want to point out the funniest joke. I think it was her opening line that you may have recognized me from as Midge from Marvelous Mrs. Maisel or Westwood, because I guess there was an ongoing thing I read. I went to Twitter because I just started Westworld, so I was trying to understand.
Yeah.
I guess everyone thinks she is Evan Rachel Wood, who plays Dolores.
Yeah.
And then I looked at them side by side. I'm like, dang, actually, they look a lot alike, but they do look different.
Yeah. Well, and obviously, Marvelous Miss Maisel and Westworld are pretty much the same show.
Yeah, exactly. You might just get lost in the settings because they're so similar.
Honestly, sometimes I'm like, which one am I watching? All right. God, I don't even want to talk about this first sketch. Action News. What were your thoughts on it? You can't tell what I thought of it so far, right?
Oh my God. Let me pull. Okay, I don't even need to pull up my notes for this. It was just not funny.
And that's our show, guys.
Okay,
Thanks
I need
for tuning
to
in.
think of my reasons for it. What did you think of it? I hate when I just put not funny. I try to elaborate. So let me find it. What did you think about it?
No, I agree. I very much agree. And I saw a lot of feedback online that everyone was like, this was the best skit of the night. And I was like, first of all, they're not called skits.
Yeah.
Second of all, this was garbage.
You monster.
You monsters. No, I think this was okay. So they're on a news program, and the entire basis of the sketch is wordplay on names.
Oh yeah.
This is like, I remember being a kid and like going to visit like parks and stuff where you would sign your name in, and me and my best friend when we were like 6 would like put stupid names, and we thought we were hilarious.
Yeah.
And we were, because we were 6.
Yeah. I thought, okay, yeah, I see how this is a funny premise. There's so many funny names that you could do with this, but what else?
Yeah.
That should have been a B plot to a bigger plot in the sketch. Do you hear me? In the sketch.
Exactly. We are fiery tonight. We have been off air for a while, and we are back, and we are fiery. I totally agree. I kept waiting for the other thing, the main premise, and that's all it was.
Yeah.
So that's always a little unnerving too when the first sketch of the night is like that, because that's the strongest That's the lead-in.
Yeah.
So we were in for it at that point.
I got nervous. I was like, okay, and I was like in an improv class, and
Yes, and what is next? But what was next, I loved. We were talking about it before, that we wish we had an urn that we could have on the desk with us for the digital short. Leave me alone.
Leave me alone. So great. I love this one because as a woman, I feel like there's no way to get the point across that you do not want to talk to someone without being a total brat. So how do you do that? You bring in a urn.
I love the just because like the stakes are kind of raised in it. Like, yeah, what's the weirdest thing you could do to get rid of small talk? You could pull out someone's ashes.
I feel like in the writer's room, this definitely started with the premise of someone, probably Kate, being like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
And then them taking off with that.
Oh, I could actually really see that. Yeah, just like with the fun. See, that's fun wordplay.
Yeah.
I loved some of the narration too. I feel like Cecily and Kate had a lot to do with this one. I know they were both instrumental in Welcome to Hell also, and it kind of reminded me of that, of like some of the undertones. So I think all through, whether it's the music in the monologue song or in here, kind of those same undertones. But I loved the line of when you want to get rid of boy strangers. Oh. I just like that they call them boy strangers. It's gonna be my
strangers.
My new favorite thing when I'm out and like guys come up that I don't want to talk to. They're boy strangers. Anything else about Leave Me Alone?
No, it was actually one of my highlights of the night.
I think so too, and they kept it short. They kept, it didn't drag on too long. I think that they got where they needed to with it.
I think, and I'm not a comedian, I do premise this statement with this. If it's funny, it doesn't need more than 4 or 5 minutes to get the point across. Yeah. If you need more than 4 minutes, maybe reconsider if it's funny or rewrite it so you can punch it harder, faster.
Yes. Thank you, Steph.
Spoken as a true non-comedian.
It's true though. Even if you look at movies, like when I see a comedy and it says 2 hours, I'm like, what? That's it. Just, what? Why? Same. It's comedy. Get to the point. And I do want to mention the ending, because a lot of times a lot of my favorite sketches on SNL don't have an ending. I loved that they brought in the idea of lower back spikes. Because you should never have to touch the woman on the small of her back as she walks past you, as they say.
Yeah, that is awesome.
So yeah, I think that was a highlight for me of the night too.
And that was literally, that was Ego who, right, that was the shortest part of the skit, wasn't it? Okay, yeah. Okay.
Just like that quick button at the end. Good to see Ego get to do something, but that's about it.
Underutilizing Ego and Chris Redd and Heidi this episode completely.
Oh, totally. I mean, Heidi didn't really get anything till the end. Chris was non-existent in it.
He was barely in it. Like, you just saw his face in parts.
I feel like it's a lot. You feel the loss with someone like Chris not being in it because he's just so strong.
Well, and it's interesting. All three of us, we all unanimously loved Chris, and we have different we agree on a lot of stuff, but we do have different comedy styles. So as a new character, if you're that strong with an audience, I feel like, what are you missing?
Yeah, exactly. Which, speaking of the three of us, shout out to Callie. She's in Egypt right now.
She's so cool.
She's just hanging out in Egypt.
Like, she's so cool.
Check out her Instagram. She got like a bunch of puppies around her all the time. I want to go to Egypt if there's that many puppies.
I did not think Egypt and puppies. But
learn something new every day. So next sketch was the Millennial Millions.
Okay, yes.
So game show, kind of, featuring millennials and kind of what they think that they have rights to, and then the baby boomers coming in and pretty much stripping it away. So what were your thoughts on it?
I didn't mind this sketch. I liked it because it felt relatable to me, at least, with a lot of the things where I'm like, no, you can't settle for ethics. Like, that's BS. We're not gonna do it. But it doesn't matter if you're not getting paid. Like, I'm very serious about it. So I did think that it was funny, and I thought that they had Rachel dressed as a perfect millennial.
Yes. Yeah.
Patches and all.
Yes. Yeah, I think the idea of like seeing the different types of baby boomers too was really funny. Like the one who who got the $8 million pension or whatever, and now she's like living in Key West, and like all the different kinds of baby boomers. I would have liked to see this done almost, I mean, if you're going to force Kenan on my screen, then at least I actually think this would have been a good opportunity for a Family Feud, where it was baby boomers versus millennials.
Oh.
Because the thing that I think this missed was pacing and more specifics to character. Because there's a lot of really funny, specific characteristics for millennials, and same with baby boomers. And they brought it in a little bit in some of their intros, but I think if there were more of them and they were all on screen at the same time, or they each had specific characters the same way they do it with impressions, it could have heightened the comedy a little bit and like made the pacing a little bit faster for it too.
I agree with that, because I thought that the premise was funny. The reason why I said I didn't mind it as opposed to this was hilarious was because it was missing the dialogue between the two quicker or like in a more higher stakes way.
Yeah, I just think there's so many funny specifics with those two age groups that could have been played with. So I was kind of let down by that, but I did think it was a really funny idea and a different idea. Mm-hmm. Like it was like sometimes it's hard to find that in between of like what's a current topic that's funny but not like crazy political, and just something that's like silly, you know? And I feel like this was something kind of in between because it was talking about real stuff, but it was also just kind of silly at the same time too.
I agree.
Boom. We're just working our way through right now.
Well, this episode, I had a lot of critiques.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when my sister called, she was like, how is SNL? I haven't watched it yet. And I was like, you're going to want to get drunk.
Yeah.
Was all I said. Which I think
there was positives though. There
were, yeah. There definitely were. Like we said, we liked that sketch. Liked it.
Yeah.
Raunchiest Mrs. Rita. Les Dog.
Hilarious. This is a positive. Leslie killed this sketch.
She did.
I even put the first opening line where after Rachel pumps her up and says Midge and says, just be honest. And she's like, honestly, it looks like she hasn't gotten any D in a while or whatever she says. Like, that was my only like laugh out loud moment other than a Weekend Update. Yeah. I thought Leslie was so good because this is her style comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, this was so perfectly catered to her. And I'd like to know if this was... I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the bits were written by her. I'd love to see if she was the one who actually created the sketch, or if it was another writer, or like who came up with it. So actually, anyone listening, if you know, put it in the comments and let us know, because that's one that I'd be interested in hearing, because it was perfect for her. It's her. Mm-hmm. It was her getting to do her style of comedy in a way that made sense for the show. Totally. So I loved it.
I loved it.
And then, so next we have the musical guests. We'll talk about them, both their performances. Greta Van Fleet. Had you heard of them before this?
No.
Same.
And maybe this is just me being out of touch, but I was like waiting for a woman. Greta Van Fleet. I don't know why I thought that. Are we talking about the music now?
Yeah. We can jump in on both their performances.
The main singer, has a great voice. I'm trying to find his name. Great voice, or they're from Michigan. Yeah, vocalist Josh Kiszka. And I think I've heard of him. And actually the guitarist is Jake Kiszka and the bass player is Sam Kiszka. So I'm going to assume that they're either cousins or brothers.
Yeah.
They did all look alike, all in the same fashion. And I thought they had a lot of fun. And his voice is really cool.
Yeah, I was not expecting that at all. Like I said, I hadn't heard any of their music before this, and then when he opened his mouth the first time, I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
But yeah, like their style and their music, it's like it's kind of reminiscent of a lot of like '60s rock, but then also kind of like current, like almost like a funkier version of like the Strokes or something.
Yeah.
That's like...
And actually, they're nominated they have 3 nominations for the upcoming Grammys.
Nice.
On February 10th.
Very cool. Yeah. I liked them. Different, but oh my gosh, their clothes too.
Yeah.
Who styles them?
Yes. Okay, crop top.
He's so little and adorable too.
His smile.
Yeah.
Great teeth.
Yeah, he was. That was a lot of fun to watch. So let's jump into Weekend Update. Before we get into the guests, I know we got to see Kate's Elizabeth Warren and then Pete and special guest John Mulaney. Were there any standout jokes before we get to them, though?
My computer just died.
So no.
I thought the BuzzFeed bit was funny because I did see that they were trying to break news with the Cohen investigation, and I was like, BuzzFeed, interesting, new lane. But they have been doing hard-hitting news for a while, so I think Michael Che was a little bit harsh, but it was still funny. I thought that Colin Jost and him agreed for the first time, when he was like, yeah, I agree. I think Michael Che agreed with Colin. I was like, that it's funny when there's that like one time where they agree.
Because I do love that like banter between them. And even in this one, when Che was saying talking about the Gillette ad, and he was like, I mean, I like the message, Colin doesn't. And they show a picture of Colin. I love that fun like faked anger banter between them. But
we have to talk about over the break how all of us on the SNL panel, me, Kelly, and Amy, were all texting about Michael Che. You guys have to follow him on Instagram. He doesn't post, but he'll story. And he posted this story of this text conversation between him and Colin Jost, and it was hilarious because the amount of people who thought they were being serious, you should be ashamed of yourself.
It was basically Che just like saying things like, I'm gonna go donate and do things for inner city youth, and Colin just being a nightmare of like a white privileged pompous
like
ass.
why
Yeah. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, Jost must have gotten so much hate mail for like weeks because people were just commenting to Che and being like, oh my gosh, it's so sad you have to work with him. He's a monster.
And then to bring it up a notch, Michael Che was responding and being like, I know it's so hard. Like,
well played on that one. Well played. Oh man. I think one of my standouts was actually from Jost in the beginning. It was towards the top of it when he was comparing. Their analogies are always so on point. But when he was like, when you get tested for 100 STDs and the doctor comes back and says you don't have chlamydia, you're not like, great. All I need to know, no condoms for this guy. I loved that because I love when they take politics and give good analogies.
It's actually my probably my favorite style of comedy, only because it's so smart.
Yeah.
It's funny, but it's also really, really smart. And you're like, dang, actually comedians are smarter than most of us.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I know.
Oh, and then I loved the Super Blood Wolf Moon when Jost kind of threw some shade at the band. Yeah. I thought that was the name of the band that just performed on our show. They must have gotten such a kick out of that.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the guests, though. So Elizabeth Warren, we got to see Kate's Elizabeth Warren.
Loved. Another really big highlight for me. I thought it was so funny because she's like, it's kind of like, what'd you say, like the anal exam, like you never wanted, but it's like, bend over, America, you need this. And that was a great analogy because I don't know, obviously I have to see all the Democratic nominees, but I will say Elizabeth Warren has been in the fight for years.
Yeah.
So even though obviously, like she said, she might not be the most likable, and she hit all the flaws that normal people hit, which I love when they're ahead of that. It's true. She does have a lot to offer, though.
Yeah, I think Kate is just so good at bringing like that little bit extra bit of comedy to everything, whether it was Pelosi in the beginning and just being like super creepy with it. And then in this one, just kind of like right at the end of something, she'd give it a beat and just go like, fighting. Like just one last little one just to squeeze that last drop of comedy out of it.
Totally.
And I loved the line, sorry, I'm not young and pretty like Donald Jackass Trump.
Like, honestly, I hate to comment on looks, but he's hideous. And I don't know if that's the insides coming out, but regardless, what I see, hideoso.
Hideoso. Oh, a real. Let's talk about Pete and John Mulaney. Double, triple. I loved getting to see John come back on the show. I love that man so much.
I love him, but I love even more seeing Pete healthy and totally on top of the jokes that people would give to him. And I love the opening with Colin just being like, when Pete set it up saying, I'm going to talk about something really near and dear to my heart, and Colin interjects and says, like, mental health, and he's like, no, mule.
Yeah.
It was really, really funny, and Pete at his best. And then also the partnership with Jon they are such a cute duo. Holy crap.
Because they really are different. So that's what I loved, how much they played into that when Pete had the joke at the top where he's like, I shouldn't joke about that, I know, but sorry, it's funny. Because he was saying how after he did witness or observe Jon's life, he publicly threatened suicide. And I just love that that's him. You know, he's always able to embrace that kind of like darker side and things that are going on, but it was just good to see him like healthy and laughing and back doing what he's so freaking good at.
Yeah.
And to see it, with John Mulaney at his side, and just to see them like gush over this freaking
what
movie.
seems like the dumbest thing I've ever heard of.
Like they were just having the time of their lives
Yeah.
up there, and I love that.
Me too. Because it's one thing if the bits aren't just in itself hilarious, but when you're having fun with it, it's whatever you're trying to come across is coming across.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So even if it's not like the best written thing or the best whatever, like you just
No
enjoy
point.
watching that. Well, even the monologue in the beginning, and that's why I didn't like the monologue, but I was smiling the whole time because I love Rachel Brosnahan and the energy she was bringing to it.
Totally.
So, Tabitha.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I've been waiting to say this because off the top, okay, I don't think it was written well, but Les Dog has really improved on reading and not breaking. This episode, she didn't break once.
That's true. She did. You know, it's funny that she didn't, but I almost was like, she's definitely going to break at some point in this episode, because literally the second she came on camera in this episode, she just put her head down.
Yeah.
She was already starting to. But so maybe that's it. Maybe she just got to get it out of the way early, like catch herself, and then she'll be fine for the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree because I was really happy with it. I don't know. It just seemed like, okay, it was Rachel Brosnahan hadn't been on for a few sketches, I feel like, before this, which seemed bizarre to me. So when she came back on, I was excited. And I think there's a lot you can do with talk shows. Like we saw it with Amy Poehler and Maya Rudolph, right? They did a lot of those together.
Sweater weather.
Yeah, I just feel like they haven't hit the talk shows right since Tina Fey and Kristen Wiig and that group of girls left.
That's a good point. Yeah, they haven't really had anything that's stuck. And also, I just felt like it was too much of that for this episode, because we started with a game show, then we went into a news show, and then we had another game show, and now we have a talk show. Too many shows.
Yeah. On SNL show.
Yeah. And you know what? If this was going to be a show, I was actually kind of thinking about, have you been watching Tidying Up?
No, but I've heard rave reviews about it.
I almost was like, why was there not a sketch? Because that's like all over social media right now too. Like, why isn't there a sketch with that? But almost in that style of like, you know, like she's bringing her like her method of cleaning and tidying up. I almost, if they were going to have this be a show, I actually would have liked to see this be a taped feature and have it be one of those like reality TV teaser ads for the show, and have her like going into people's homes and like doing it there with them.
Yeah.
And then they could still even have those quick flashbacks, because the videos were funny, because it's like when people shame their puppies because they like poop on the carpet or something.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was really funny, just seeing like Mikey Day just kind of like look away and like cower away. Like I thought that was a funny bit, but I didn't think anything around it was like presented the right way. So I thought they should have done like a teaser ad kind of.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think on the topic of that, there's a few things they hit on Bird Box in the cold open.
Yeah.
But there are parts of pop culture that they've been missing lately.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's too bad
Where they
because
can pull from.
Yeah. I feel like, I know when I mentioned the news sketch, the opening sketch, and people were mentioning how they thought it was like the best sketch of the night, they were also saying like, hey, back to basics, simple comedy. And I'm like, yes, I agree with that, because we do need some just kind of like almost like 70s and 80s style SNL of just like, it was just silly and fun and good characters, like the characters of like the 90s SNL. But you know, actually write a sketch, not just come up with like silly poo-poo names. call everyone penis. Like that's not simple funny. That's just dumb.
Yeah.
But I agree with that because I think something like this would just be kind of, just fun and simple and not having to kind of go into pop culture. But then, yeah, there are things that in current topics in pop culture that they're kind of missing altogether too.
Agreed.
I want to see a tidying up sketch.
Yeah. People keep talking about it. I gotta watch it.
You do. My roommate's obsessed with it right now. We've just gotten rid of like 1,000 things in our house.
No way.
Yeah.
It's like
it's like a thing.
Wow.
Watch it. And then they should do a sketch on it. But yeah, overall, I just, again, funny moments in that sketch, but it was a miss for me.
Yeah.
And then we had another taped bit, the Kool-Aid man / Gillette parody, basically.
Yeah, that was on timing with what's happening.
Yeah. I think it was short. It was funny. It was random.
Yeah.
Like, I was okay with it. I was like, this isn't the best thing, but I liked that they kept it short. And it was just silly, like, of all things, like the Kool-Aid man.
And they've done Kool-Aid a few times, so it was a good callback. And it was good execution. Like, it was funny.
Yeah.
I would probably reshare this on Twitter.
Agreed. Yeah,
I haven't yet, but I probably would.
I haven't, but I will. Hold her to it, guys. Blow her up if she does not. Oh, yeah. All right, so last sketch of the night, we're actually going to do the anatomy of a sketch on this one.
Yes, my favorite.
So we're going to talk about the Barbie sketch. They've done this before, where this is a very good example of a fish out of water sketch. So you are going to have 3 people all after the same goal. 2 of them are going to be similar. 1 of them is going to be the weirdo. Love that Rachel was the weirdo, because a lot of times they don't use the host as the weirdo, and I would think they always should. This is a funny setup because the 2 that are on board with each other are also just idiots. So they get to be very funny too. A lot of times they make those 2 be the straight men, and they don't get a lot of laughs. But in this setup, they got a ton of laughs. Heidi was hilarious in it. And it was also that basic improv rule of, with your scene partner, you either want to mirror what they're doing to heighten it, or you want to be opposite of what they're doing. And a fish out of water sketch kind of accomplishes both. Because while Pete and Heidi are on the same page and just being dumb and funny, you have the fish out of water who's completely opposite and a wackadoo. And in this, specifics are always key too. So the fact that she kept calling back to like this jacuzzi and what's under the jacuzzi, and then calling back to the raccoon that was not a raccoon, it's actually a dog. The way that they just build this weird story, I think the first time they did it, they wrote better for the like weird backstory that they were building. But I still think some of the specifics in this were good, and Rachel Brosnahan was really good, just giving it like a very thoughtful, reflective delivery on all of it. My only complaint is that they didn't have an ending. Once again, like in most of their sketches, they're just like, when's the meeting? This date. Okay, bye. And I was like, what? So I would say my only complaint about it was, yeah, a couple more specifics in the weirdness for Rachel, and then give it an ending. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I thought it was a fun sketch, and I was kind of confused why it was last, because I thought it was one of the stronger ones for live.
Totally agree. I love when you do these breakdowns because I just would never pick out those things, but it's so true that I thought Rachel's role was perfect. And I probably would have been, like, I felt relatable to that. Yeah. Also, great style. You look great with glasses. Right? Yeah. But the ending, it just seemed like it's such a good sketch and we just didn't know how to end it.
Exactly. Well, before we have to end this, let's jump into some quick news and gossip before we get going.
AfterBuzz TV News.
So obviously Pete is healthy again, which we're also happy about. There is a new documentary out on one of our SNL OG cast members. Do you know the actual title of it? I don't want to screw up the title. I had it up in my notes. I'm sorry, guys. I'll tweet it out. But on one of the OG cast members, so I believe it's streaming on Hulu. I'll make sure to write that in the comments for you guys. And basically that about does this week's what
we did. One thing that we were going to bring up really quickly too, we're going to put some good vibes out into the universe for Kenan.
This is Amy's news and gossip. Hold up, Amy, give it to us.
We're going to put some good energy out there for Kenan, my best friend Kenan, because he is working on an NBC pilot right now that I believe either just got picked up or is going to get a series pickup, and I would like him to leave SNL forever. So this is my news and gossip. Good luck, Kenan. NBC, please pick up that show so he can leave us alone.
Oh my God, I'm so happy that my computer died and failed me on my news and gossip, but you had a very important message for us.
It is. Those important stuff, guys. Steph, let us know where everyone can find you on Instagram
On
and all
that
that.
note, you guys, make sure to send those positive vibes and send them to me too, and I'll send them back to you guys. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Steph Sabraw.
Excellent. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Amy Maestri. We'll see you guys next week for James McAvoy and Meek Mill.
Woo!
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.